Hello, 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 Atlanta sports fans. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Today, I have an all star, darn near Hall of Fame cast with me, and we are talking Atlanta Hawks. Welcome to For My ATL Sports One. I'm your host, Terry Wilson. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, these gentlemen need no further introduction, but I'm going to let them introduce themselves anyway. Mr. Mark Cheney, we're going to start with you, sir. Tell them, well, they know who you are, but tell them who you are and where they can find you.
Hey, my name is Marquise Cheney. First of all, good morning, fellas. Good morning, everybody watching for wherever you're coming from. But yeah, my name is Marquise Cheney, aka Mark Cheney, and I'm just here, man. I'm just here. So I do a couple things on YouTube, do a couple things on Bleacher Report, man. That's all it is.
More
Yeah,
than a
man.
couple. Okay. Chris, go ahead, sir.
Hey, man. A1 Forever Sports. Chris Tip Moore. Be generational because it's always time to be, and don't you settle for less because you can always have more with the vision. We're gonna get into this Atlanta Hawks vision here shortly, man. Glad to be here. Grand rise to everybody, man. Find y'all peace today. You already know what it is.
Amen. Welcome, brother.
Facts.
Welcome. Smitty.
And y'all know where to find me, man. Smitty Sports Machine. Mark called me Mr. 10K. On Chris say on the way to 11K. I'm 50 away.
Amen.
But
Amen.
shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Already, my boy Tim Riley, big
Hey,
Falcon fan, man. Always supporting Sports Machine. He in here. And
Okay.
if y'all on my page right now, looking for my page, please go to A1 Forever. Subscribe. Please go to Mark Cheney and subscribe. And go to my ATL Sports Atlanta subscribe because that's look, we putting out content every day, man. So please support us and help us grow, man, because that's all we need. We need a push. Everybody needs a push. Am I right? Am I wrong? Everybody needs a
Right,
push.
brother.
absolutely.
Right.
So
100%
yeah.
right.
Absolutely.
So man, hey, let's get this talk going, man, because
Good.
I've been pretty pissed the last couple of days, but I want to know what
Mm.
y'all think. Before I give my thoughts on it, because y'all know when I let loose, I let loose.
Amen, Smitty. Amen. Well, hey, number one, look, I believe in letting the big dog eat. So, Smitty, tell us how you feel about it. We're 4 days in, right? We drafted Risa Shea and another gentleman. We traded for Daniels and Nance, and that's it. We've done nothing. We've signed
And
no
Lindell and EJ Lindell was in that deal too.
Jalen.
Right.
I did not realize.
Woo!
Thank you for that.
Right.
I
Hey,
did.
he just was a
I
part
didn't
of it.
realize.
We just
Wow.
gotta. Hey, man, we gotta do our due diligence, man. As content
No
creators,
disrespect.
man,
Right.
we gotta throw it out there. He was
You're
a
right.
part of the deal.
No disrespect to Lindell. But Smitty, how do I guess my first question and guys, I'm a student of one time for the fans, so I try and keep it positive, but and I am, but I have to ask some of the tough questions. Guys, what are we doing? We're in day 4. We've signed no one. Smitty, give me your thoughts on that. Like what's the
Maybe,
plan here? What are we doing?
excuse me. Maybe they have a plan in place. I don't know. But I know one of your questions that's coming up is cap here, and maybe that's the problem. Maybe that luxury tax they don't want to mess with it because it puts them in a deeper hole. But what does that mean? That means you need to do a better job of evaluating your talent down the road. And there's no slight to DeAndre Hunter, but we know he shouldn't have got a damn extension. We know John Collins shouldn't have got an extension. They should have just traded him for a $5 value meal at McDonald's and been
Wow.
happy with it.
Lord
Wow.
mercy.
So these kind of decisions they can hunt you for a long time, and I think that is exactly what's happening. That's why they haven't made any moves because they really don't have the cap space to. So when you lose cap space and be stuck with what you invested in, these are the type of things that happen. So now we got to sit back and, as Philadelphia say, trust the process. Um, it's just the Murray trade. A lot of people did not like it. And actually, I really didn't like it, but I understood it because guess what? One, you got 2 draft picks back.
Yeah.
2, you shared cap space and get more cap space to get out of that hole. And 3, you get kind of a value in return as far as you can use Larry Nance. You probably gonna keep Dyson Daniels, but you can use Larry Nance and those 2 first-round picks as leverage in a trade to improve this team down the road. So it wasn't all bad, but like I said, salary cap, hell, we went through it with the Falcons. So guess what? We're going through it with the Hawks. So I mean, and this is just a product of bad decisions at the end of the day.
Okay. Chris, what are you thinking, buddy?
Well, it's funny because you got to listen to some of the things that said. Like, I didn't hear the interview live, but I was told about Mr. Steve Koonin and what he said about the Hawks being in the headlines and everything like that, right? Well, when you think about it, the Hawks have been in the headlines. We offered, contract to Vic Krejci and also Wesley Matthews, that's still being in the headlines technically, right? So if we're expecting something big to happen, right now it really looking like slim pickings. The only guy that you really can see out there may be DeMar DeRozan, but would he want to come to Atlanta? Because what would that look like? And with the salary cap, like Smitty was talking about, man, we'd be trying to stay under that apron. And that first apron would be actually the problem with all that as well. What you got?
Quick question to that: would DeMar DeRozan want to go through another rebuild with a young team? If we had one more solid superstar, just put it like this:
shoot, he went to Chicago.
If we keep DeJounte Murray, have Trae Young, have Jalen Johnson, and would have drafted Sarr, then yeah, you go get DeMar DeRozan. But they didn't make a move like that. They made a move that he don't want to play here. We're not gonna draft him. Instead of being the man with the big pants on, said we're gonna take him anyway because it was we need. So now, like I said, bad decisions. Now you got to build a team in another direction since you didn't go out and get your big man. You didn't get one in free agency. You didn't get one in the draft. And exactly what we're doing here.
Folks is getting snatched up left and right, too.
My bad. Go ahead.
No.
Folks is getting, he's right, though. I mean, folks getting snatched up left and right. Our cap space is just like about what we want to spend, where we want to be as a team. We're under that. We want to stay under that salary cap is what it's looking like right now. I don't too much see us doing anything right now. What can we possibly do outside of making a trade? It seems like we're just sitting into the trade market, trying to see what we can do with Capella or maybe DeAndre Hunter. That's all it seems like. We're just waiting to see what kind of trade we can make, because as for signing, it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. Not anything with a splash, because you just look at the players that's left, and then you got to go take another look at the salary cap. We may have to pull that guy up just to dive deep into it as well too, man. But it's kind of confusing to see, because right now we know for a fact what the Hawks have like 13 players going into the season, if you include Lindell in that as well. Nance, Daniels, still trying to get Krejci back. And then was it somebody else got a qualifying offer? Oh, you still got to see what's going on with Bruno. So with that team that I'm saying, like, you have 13 players, that's like 15 players I just named right there. So we have to be sitting into the trade market. It's confusing, and we're trying to figure it out as I go. But exactly. It's like, I don't think they want to go into the luxury tax, though. They really don't.
Mark, your thoughts? Where are we going? What are we doing? What's the process? What are we doing? What you got?
Yeah, I just think, with our current cap space and, like Chris said, our current roster, we don't really have too many options. Like, that's just where we're at. Like, one of the options was going to be moving either Trae or DJ. We saw them trade DeJounte Murray. I think the other option, and maybe the last option that we have, is trading Clint. So it's probably a matter of time before we do that. but I think that's the only real way we're going to add any type of talent for this year's roster is moving Clint. Maybe you package him up with a Dre, maybe a Bogey, but even when you say that, I mean, what is that going to really do for the 2024 team? So I just think we're in a situation, man, where like a lot of people are just ignoring our current situation. I mean, a lot of people were talking about free agency, right? But then it was like, well, we were never going to be active in free agency because we had no money.
Right.
And then people talk about trades, and it's like, well, you know, you got to send the money out. You got to get that same money back. You know, again, this summer, man, we don't have too many options. And, you know, obviously we don't want to as Atlanta sports fans, but I think that's the reality. You know, we only had about 2 options really to do this summer. Well, 3 if you count the draft pick. You know, either trade the pick or draft whoever you think's the guy. You trade one of the guards because the trade in DeJounte backcourt just did not work. And then you trade Clint Capella because he's on an expiring deal. Like, I feel like I feel like we're on course, honestly, you know.
Okay. So
I feel like you laying like the foundation.
Yeah.
Like you kind of laying like the foundation in a way to be a better team, but that doesn't do anything for us now or for your star who was ready to win now. Like, honestly, okay, so we have to go back to this. If no moves are made, like, because I don't believe that we was trying to rebuild. I think we was trying to retool. But as it sits now with how the free agency is going and the players who are left, are the Hawks kind of like trying to wait it out to try to see if players' value decrease as the free agency period goes on? Like, again, DeRozan is still out there. Trent Jr. is still out there. These are guys who are going to, you know, require some money. But is it a possibility that, you know, we get closer and closer going through a summer league and everything like that? Can they possibly the value maybe go down a little bit because they're ready to just get on a team? Or could the Hawks be looking into really making Jalen Johnson the number 2? You know, as in the number 2 option. Is that another reason why they maybe not bringing somebody in? Or is it safe to say, just like Liberal Lover 2016 says, is it safe to say that nobody wants to come to Atlanta?
I mean, that's true to a certain point, but at some point, and I know I've seen somebody say in the chat, you got to wait till the dust clears. What if the dust clears and all the moves that's going to make an effective move for you? What if all those players are gone? Because as I talked about James Wiseman, a free agent that went to Indiana yesterday, and Chris put an excellent video out on it about why James Wiseman made sense. He gone. So the only other player that I would be looking at to make a trade, but I wouldn't want to give up one of those first round picks to go get Walker Kessler. And guess what? When Lauri Markkanen on the market, they could package him along with Lauri Markkanen for a 3-way trade, and both of those guys are gone. So at what point are you going to say, I got to stand my ground, I got to go on and make a move and take a risk? Because if you don't, guess what? We're going to have the same team we had last year, and guess what? That's a play-in team. Nobody going to pay their hard-earned money to come see that. Let's keep it real.
If that. So guys, let's stay right there, right? We've established that, I think we've established we are in salary cap hell. To kind of go along with that, we recently hired a capologist. Did we not? Didn't we hire somebody to come in and do the cap?
From Golden State.
Yeah. So I guess my question, and I think you guys have kind of answered, is A, how do we get out of cap hell, right? Which I think some of you alluded to. B, what is that time frame, right? Because it doesn't seem like it's going to be this year, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be next year. And C, and this is more of a statement, and I'll start with C, right? So B, we are in cap hell. A, how do we get out of it? How do we move forward? But the other thing is, guys, this feels like a rebuild. Now, I know they're not calling it a rebuild, but let me tell you something. Those of you who've ever been through layoffs, when they start to bring on efficiency experts to look at how things are done, you need to worry. because somebody's getting it. Might not be you, but somebody's getting it. Guys, this feels like smells like, looks like a rebuild, right? We
It's
got
kind of
bad
like a forceful rebuild. I feel like it's kind of like a forceful rebuild.
Yeah, we got bad contracts that we
Mhm.
can't move. We're stuck in salary cap. Hell, we can't sign anybody, right?
Right.
And we're trading for draft picks. Some would argue, and you know, sometimes when you're desperate, you got to take what you got to take, right? It's like, you know, let's say you purchased a 2024 Mercedes, but now you're getting a divorce and you're moving to France and everything's got to go. You're probably going to sell it at 50% for what you could normally get for. That's what that trade for
Well,
DeJounte felt like. Because I was under the impression, at a minimum, you're going to get Brandon Ingram. If you were trying to win, if you were trying to at
well,
least stay where you
well,
were.
okay. Stay right there, Terry. Stay right there at that Brandon Ingram thing, right? So
Yep.
now with the Brandon Ingram thing, you bring him in. What kind of example do you think does that set? Does that set that, oh, we're trying to win? You know, because you bring him in, you're pretty much I guess you're gonna pay him. So what he's making, 35 mil, I think, this season.
Mm-hmm.
So if you trade DeJounte, who's making 25, then you trade for Brandon Ingram, who's making 35. Like what is that really like doing for you, all, you know, as a whole? Like
To me,
I really didn't see it. I really didn't see what advantages we really got with it.
and this is just from my rudimentary, elementary basketball mindset. But to me, he's a bigger guy.
Mhm.
And to me, when the Hawks, this version, this iteration of our beloved Hawks, when they excel, is when you can put a bunch of big guys around Trey and let him distribute, let him drive in and distribute. And Brandon is also a scorer. We just watch 20 points, walk out the door. Guys, how are we going to replace that? Because right now we don't have it. So that was my thought. Now, maybe the net result, again, Chris, you know more about basketball than I do. So maybe the net result would not have been better. And maybe that's why they didn't do it. I watched an interview with some New Orleans podcasters, and they were under the impression that Brandon was going to be traded as well. So I don't know.
Mhm.
Mark and Chris, look, again, that's a valid point. If you feel like we weren't going to get better, then I trust it.
I mean,
But
it's just
do
I
you
just didn't
think
see it.
you think we got enough? Do you think? I mean, DeJounte Murray, he may not be top 10, but he's a very good player. Do you think in a normal market we could have gotten more? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, here's something that could have been interesting. Like, let's say you would have kept DeJounte Murray, right? Let's
Okay.
just say you would have went into it and you would have went. You would have definitely would have gone in the other directions if you did that. Let's say you kept Murray and Trey, and let's say Murray is having an all-star type season. Do you then try to put him on the trade market then mid-season and possibly get back possibly more?
Yeah.
Do you take that risk? But as a front office, you probably just didn't want to take that risk. You want to do something now. That's why also you bring in that expert with the salary cap, like you're saying. Something had to give. So, and you also had to think about it too. For what they traded for Mikal Bridges, we definitely was going to want something similar or better for Trae Young. And I think the Hawks probably did try to go out there or maybe make a phone call to say, hey, what is the trade market for him? But DeJounte just had the better contract. DeJounte was the easier move. So as far as equal value, now you don't necessarily got equal value because you got to think about what you gave away. It's not necessarily equal value, but you do have, again, a foundation in place to where you're moving into the right direction, I believe. Again, the Hawks said, hey, our bad. We tried this DeJounte and Trey thing. It didn't work out. Now let's try to backtrack our moves. We messed up. Let's go into a different direction. And that's where they're going. As far as like Trae Young goes, what will he do moving forward? That's the whole thing. You don't know what he's going to say. Right now, he's like Atlanta. But he also this past season was also saying like, hey, I want it to happen in Atlanta, but if it's not, like what is the timetable for how long he wants to stay in Atlanta? I know some people they can care either way, you know, they couldn't care either way, but at the end of the day, he is our star right now. So like what you got?
And I see somebody in the comments saying we don't need a
Mm.
big. What team you watching? Because
We don't
Clint Capella
need
is
a big.
22. Clint Capella is $22 million against the cap this year. He's 6'10". His game is declining. He's still a dominant rebounder, but as far as block shots and defense, he's taking a step back. And guess what? When you play guys like Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, guess what? They're gonna bat Big O down and they're gonna dominate him.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna to keep it simple, they're gonna dominate him. So you have to get a guy that's 7 foot, at least 250, 260 to play against some of the top centers in the league. And also it helps Trey out as well. Because you got somebody that can protect the rim, rebound, and I think Walker Kessler has room to develop offensively as well. When you get a guy that's still 22, 23 years old at most. No, he's 21. I think he's 21 going on 22. So when you get another young piece,
Kessler,
another piece in that front court to build around, Onyeka gonna get his he's gonna get his shot. But if you put Walker in the middle of this team at center, guess what? You can rotate Jalen, you can rotate Ricochet, and guess what? Onyeka can play the 4. And those other 2 guys I named, they could probably play the 2 or the 3. So that makes more sense to me to just keep going out and get wing players. Just doesn't make sense. Because guess what? At the end of the day, we know wing players need the basketball. How many wing players you think will get the ball if you add 1 or 2 more wings? It's not going to be enough basketballs to go around. Pause. But trust me, man. You got to get that. You got to get that 7-footer, man. It's just no way around it. And Mark, am I lying? Have I told you this before?
Yeah. Hey, I mean, like I said, I thought one of the only things we could really do was upgrade that 2 position, upgrade center. And when we're talking about like roster movement, and I agree. You know, Kessler's a guy from Atlanta. You know, bring him back to the crib. You know, everyone gets on the bandwagon for Jaylen Brown. Everyone gets on the bandwagon for, you know, Ant and all these Atlanta guys. But no one wants Kessler. He's from Atlanta too. You know, so
right.
You know,
and that's a great point, man. And y'all got to understand, superstars don't always make a team, man. Look at the 2004 Pistons. How many superstars did they really have on their team?
That's true.
Think about that.
And respectfully, though. How long?
One Hall of Famer.
Hey,
one Hall of Famer, but no superstar.
Guys,
it was
not
chemistry.
Go ahead.
We have
a new guest. Brycey 2K.
Yes,
Bryce, how you doing, man?
I'm dead. What's up, guys? I'm doing well. How are you guys?
What's going on, Bryce?
So,
I felt inspired, so I wanted to come on.
Well,
there you go.
You're more than welcome. And Bryce, I'm going to see you in about 7 hours on One Time for the Fan tonight. So, hey, man.
Sure.
First and foremost,
there it is.
And welcome. And Smitty, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you guys off. I did want
I wouldn't mind taking Kessler too. We've been man. Me and Smitty already had the video with Kessler and Wiseman, but Wiseman seems to be going to the Pacers now. So Kessler's the play if you're talking about trying to get a big man, a 7-footer, because we 6'10" and under and been that way for seasons. So I'm just saying, like, I'm ready to get bigger on the front court. I'm ready to have more depth, ready to have really like the defense. It seems like we're trying to go into a more of a defensive setting right now with a lot more defensive guys. And it seems like Trey may be the focal point on offense, maybe like how he was 2 seasons ago before DeJounte got here.
Right.
But and then they just put other guys around him. It seems like they're trying to rebuild around Trey, but they're trying to go into a different direction. And then even shout out to the Dixon way, my man's Larry. And he said, we can't make any more moves until the Pelicans either send us another player to cover the trade kicker for DJ, or we will get $5 million from the Pelicans July 6th. So that's going to be Saturday, July 6th. So maybe that is another day where we see something happen over the coming weekend. We'll just see, because I know it's something going on behind the scenes. I can tell you that. I can't tell you who is saying these different things, but I can guarantee you that it's something going on behind the scenes. We just don't know what, as content creators and people like kind of on the outside. But I just can't wait to see what it is, though. So that's another reason why I said earlier about, players' value possibly going down, the Hawks possibly also waiting until, so we'll see what happens around Summer League and everything too. That's just another possibility. But I can understand how some fans want it right now, and that's understandable because we've been losing for long term, or we've had a taste of what possibly could be, and then it gets snatched away. I understand, but everything is kind of like a process, though. We do have to remember that too.
Look, it is very difficult to win in this league. It is even more difficult to win perpetually or ongoing, or having a win cycle of about 7 or 8 years. Hey man, regimes come and go. Bryce, I'm sorry. It says Brycey 2K, but I'm assuming you go by Bryce. So apologies. And somewhere in the universe, I feel like I should say pause. But anyway, Bryce, welcome to the show. The current discussion is the Hawks. Where are we going? What are we doing? We've established that we're in cap hell. Bryce, you had a very good interview that I watched last night with two gentlemen from New Orleans, and I kind of want to shift the scope
on that.
And I want to talk about Daniels, the guy that we got back. Supposedly, this guy is a really good on-the-ball defender. Can you speak to that? And can you also speak to, because you do cover the Hawks, in your mind's eye, what is this current management group doing? Where are they going? What are they trying to do going forward? Bryce, go ahead.
Yeah, appreciate it. So when it comes to Dyson, I think the number one thing for him is, when I was talking to those guys, they were just talking about how, like, one of them said he's like one of my favorite players on the team. They called him instant impact Dyson. Yeah. Instant impact, right? Because he's a guy who can guard 1 through 4, 6'7". So obviously he already brings size as well. And a guy who, if you think about one of the biggest issues that this team has had, everybody's thinking about with DJ gone, scoring, who's going to score with Trey, score. But people don't realize the biggest issue we had was defense. The defense was god awful. We were scoring 130 points and still losing games. Yeah. So, I think what Dyson is brought in to do is he's there to now be that primary defender, guard the other team's best offensive player, which now also helps Jalen, and if they keep Hunter as well, because now they're not going to be tasked with that duty. Dyson can handle that duty, obviously depending on the team and who their best player is. But now those duties have switched. And Dyson's a guy who's able to come in here, impact it. I think one thing that the guys told me is that he wants to get more turnovers, create more turnovers, and more block shots. That's something he's working towards. He wants to try to improve. He's just good, on-ball defender, and also good in the help defense as well. So immediately you have upgraded your point of attack defense by acquiring him, which was a huge issue. Everybody remembers the Kobe White game where he just shredded Trey and DeJounte because neither one of them could really guard him. Now you have Dyson, who you can throw out there, and you can now have someone who can now put up a fight at least, and maybe even shut him down. I'm sure Dyson has those games as well. They've said he's given guys like Luka trouble and other guys. He's even given guys like Chet Holmgren trouble. So clearly Dyson can be impactful when it comes to multiple positions as well. And I think that is something that I guess like the Hawks have some guys who can play defense, but they maybe you can say don't have an impact defender. And that's what they're expecting Dyson to be, an impact defender, which could open up some things for them defensively. Now you're adding in Shea and everything like that and creating just more size across your wings and front court in general. Now, in terms of what the GM is trying to do, I think the plan now with Trey is, I think they just are like, listen, like you do with most teams, you need to require wings who can defend. You need guys who can switch 2 through 5. You need guys who can basically just play across the board and not be a liability defensively. Obviously, you can't be completely 100% perfect with everybody in your rotation. But for the most part, if you think about the Hawks rotation outside of Bogey, let's just say they kept this roster. Outside of Bogey, those are your 2 weakest defensive players, Bogey and Trey, realistically. Outside of that, pretty much everybody can be able to hold their own a little bit, depending on what level, how you feel about guys, right? And I think that's what they're trying to do. Because I think here's the thing. We all have agreed that if it's DJ Solo or Trey Solo, the team is better than them both on the floor. So they feel like, we'll put Trey here. And because Trey obviously definitely has a much better playmaking ability and obviously a much better scorer. And then and like I said, as long as Trey, I think they look at as long as Trey is willing to put in effort defensively, be opportunistic with his steals, turnovers, and just be able to put in effort. I think they feel like we can work with that because we'll have guys around you. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what they're aiming for in terms of that. In terms of, what's happening right now and the salary cap and things of that nature, I think what you're seeing is, like I said, a league-wide thing. Where with this new CBA thing, everybody's trying to get under, everybody's trying to cut costs. That's why they said free agency wasn't as booming and everybody was spending money, because everybody's like, all right, we got to figure out, really got to think about what we want to do here if I cap, because it's not just about this year. It's about the future years, because you don't want to be in the second apron next year, because then you're going to have to cut. You're going to have to do a lot of things just to get under. So I think teams are trying to create more healthier cap situations where they're trying to now feel like we can go year to year and not feel like, all right, we got to now make tons of cuts. Obviously we see in the NFL salary cap gets called. We have teams that are like 40 million, and now they're like, all they can do is cut. They can't do anything else except cut. And I think that's what teams are trying to not have to do in future seasons. I mean, if you think about the Hawks, they know they have to sign Jalen Johnson to what will probably be a max contract realistically. So, I mean, you have to prepare. Okay, that's 25, 30 million, 35 million, depending wherever range. That's going to add on to the cap. You got to be prepared to be able to take that on, because it won't come into effect this year. It'll probably come into effect next year. So you got to be like, okay, how are we going to set up to be prepared to take that? Because
indeed,
like I said, the second apron is the most outside of the, you have two teams. You have the Suns, who just don't care. And we're seeing how that goes. Right. Maybe it works out, but right now it's not. And people are saying, well, Boston's spending a lot of money. They just won a championship. Of course, if my team just won a championship, I'll spend money, because I have a feeling, okay, we can win it again. Yeah. I have a reason to come back and spend that money.
Hello.
You can't expect the team to not make the playoffs and say, let's just get into the high end of the luxury tax to win. Because if you do that and they lose, you don't have a lot of.
Don't forget Denver.
Exactly. I mean, you can see with them, they've had to let Bruce Brown go, and they just lost
KCP
and KCP. So
and what's coming with all those teams, they've laid the foundation to do so, and the Hawks have yet to do that. Yeah. So until you lay that championship foundation, whether there's free agents building through the draft, it's just gonna be the same old play-in team, maybe first round, who knows? But you got to have that foundation, man, and the foundation really starts with the front office, and this front office is about as clueless as the water boy trying to run down the field and throw a football. So
water sucks. Water really, really sucks.
Hey, man, that was a good movie, man. Shout out to old Bobby Boucher. Hey, no, but for real though, man, Bryce making sense though. Bryce making sense though, because that goes back to what we were saying about laying a foundation. For me, you got to look at Daniels and his opportunities. I think they like the Trey Murphy and his upside a little bit better. Cool, whatever. I like Dyson Daniels because he can guard the 1 through the 4. I also like it because he's a point of attack. I think his upside to be a very, very great point of attack defender is just, and the thing about it is he can do that here with us. I think you actually start Dyson Daniels, y'all. I think you can actually do that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Yeah, I think you also bring him over, not to put him necessarily on the bench. I think you want him in your starting lineup because he also is a vet. I mean, regardless, it may be he may be young, but he still knows what's going on in the NBA. I think you start Dyson Daniels next to Trey, possibly. Maybe put him at the 2. What do y'all think about that?
Gentlemen, I'm going to open it up to the forum. What do we think about that? I think it's a great idea.
Because I feel like they're going to start him. I feel like you traded for him. I feel like point of attack, the defense.
I agree with that.
To go back to the Kobe White thing.
I agree with that to a certain extent, Chris. But you got to look at Bogey with more experience. I think he's going to get the 2 guard spot over him, and then with them having to pay 22.5 million, I wouldn't be surprised if he started at 3 this year.
Oh, I
Over
expect
Ricochet.
Hunter to start at the 3. I do
Yeah,
expect
so
that.
so I mean Dyson Daniels and Ricochet, they probably gonna be key role the bench players, maybe up until the All-Star break, and depending on what the Hawks at that point. At that point, after that, I think they'll switch it around. But truth be told, and I'm gonna just keep saying this and nailing it home, Double OG is not gonna be able to hold up night after night, taking on guys 6'10" and above. He's only 6'8" and a half.
Yeah, I think
How can you be
like 6'8".
how can you build a physical mindset with an undersized lineup? You already got Trey that's undersized. You have Onyeka who's undersized, and truth be told, weight wise and physical wise, Jalen Johnson is a little bit undersized, and Richard Shea who's not developed all the way. So being undersized is just going to be their downfall this year, to me.
So okay, so to follow up the question about real quick about being Dyson being at the 2. All right, so I don't see them starting Dyson and Ricochet. So but I don't see them. I don't know if you put Bogey at the 2 with Trey, because just think about the defensive liability. I know it's effort there from both players.
Right.
And I know it's offense there from both players, but the defensive liability is kind of like what I'm thinking about. And I actually like Bogey with the second unit, just like I like Hunter with the second unit. But I like Bogey more so with the second unit. I know he provides scoring ability. And I just like maybe like a point of attack defender just next to Trey. I understand that the Dyson, though, he had to definitely improve that shooting for me. That's the only thing, too. He would definitely have to improve that shooting, because I know that's one of the reasons why he was traded. That's one reason why they like Trey Murphy. Trey Murphy can shoot. So that's something that he would have to improve on. And that's going to be on Dyson, though. That's all on him. We can't do nothing about that. That's going to be all on him. But, okay. But, yeah, I like Dyson Daniels, though. I like him at the 2. I don't see him being at the 3. Just because I think Hunter is going to start at the 3 because of that contract, especially if he's here. If he's here, he's definitely starting. But I like Bogey. I like Bogey at the 2, but not in the starting lineup. I just seen enough of that, me personally, and I just don't like it. But that's all on Dyson to improve that shot, though. He would have to do that, and then I feel more comfortable. I feel more comfortable with Dyson, but. I feel you, Smitty. You making sense, brother. You are with the Bogey thing, but I just don't like Trey and Bogey starting the game off together, and just for that defensive.
But that goes back to my point. You got to build a better foundation. That just goes back to my point. When you build a strong foundation, you don't have these problems. You know exactly what direction you want to go. And truth be told, if Quinn Snyder had any say so in who we drafted and who we brought in, I think we do get a Walker Kessler or James Wiseman and before anything happened, because when you include the coach and what they're trying to build, and it goes to what their philosophy is, I think it makes it for a stronger team, and I just don't see that here.
I think we're trying, but I want to get to Mark and Bryce first. Yeah, in regard to whether or not you guys would start Dyson. Mark, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you draft Ricochet, the first pick. You only gave a bag to Bogey. I think those guys are going to get the opportunity to start over a guy we just brought in. Okay. I get that we're trying to replace, DeJounte, and maybe we want to try to get the most value out of the deal by making this guy a starter. But I don't think I think with the politics of sports and it's a reality. Like I said, you draft Ricochet first. I think they're going to give him a chance to start. If it's not him starting, it's probably going to be Bogey. So I think Dyson, his only real opportunity to start was maybe the 3. And it's just one of those situations where I think he could end games, but him starting, I don't think that helps us enough to again have Bogey, Ricochet, and potentially, Hunter, two out of three of those guys coming off the bench. I don't think that helps us as much as we, may think. So I would like, bring him off the bench. He could possibly be the backup point guard. That's the role I see for him. I see him potentially being a backup point guard, and then you let Kobe play the two. You let Kobe kind of just keep his head down and try to attack. That's kind of more of his game, even though he does have playmaking ability. Let him play the two on the bench. And again, you maybe let Dyson close the game at the two, at the three, because of his defense. But that's kind of where I see Dyson at right now. I like him, but the guy that scored 6 points per game, there's no way. If he's a starter for us next season, beginning of the season, everybody's healthy, that is not a good sign for Hawks fans. That goes back to us looking like a tanking team, in my opinion.
Okay. Bryce, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I feel like for my big thing about it is that I feel like the Hawks with bad roster construction have had bad lineup balance. And so in terms of lineup balance, I think that would obviously make sense in terms of that way. Okay, let's say you start with Trey and Dyson. Okay, so you got your scorer, you got your defender, right? And then if you want to go to the bench, because it looks like they're going to go back to a 4-guard rotation this year. I think that's fully expected. You're going to bring off Bogey and Kobe. So you're at least keeping one guy who's a defensive plus in each of those two sets of players that you're bringing onto the court. Right. And so I think with that, I think that is something that they're clearly aiming for. Now, obviously, there will be moments where you'll probably have a Bogey, Trey back there. And there may even be moments you have Kobe and Dyson. I mean, there's going to be moments of that. It just depends how the game goes, the flow of the game, who you're playing. Because one thing I think the Hawks lacked last year was, like I said, lineup versatility. If they played a team that could play certain lineups, they really couldn't change their lineup because they didn't really have anybody else to play a different type of lineup. So I think it kind of just depends. I think it depends on, again, what your expectations are for Dyson coming in. Obviously, luckily, we have a guy in Kyle Korver who works with these guys on their shooting. I mean, DeAndre repped the benefits of that. I mean, DJ improved his 2 years here. Obviously, Okongwu's working on it right now. I think Jalen made improvements from year 2 to year 3. So we have evidence of guys improving their shot. And I think that's something that they'll obviously know, like, hey, we want to work with you on this and help improve that for sure. So I think that wouldn't be a bad decision to me. I think obviously Ricochet is the wild card in this factor because we need to know where they play him. I think obviously, even though it's summer league, you maybe have an idea of where they'll play him. If he's going to be a 3 or a 2, they could, but like I said, summer league. So it depends. But I think they have that lineup versatility where if they wanted to maybe go Ricochet at the 2, sometimes they could as well. So I think, like I said, the biggest thing is that they just really wanted to shore that up defensively because they feel like with Trey, you should still be able to have an efficient offense. And I think people always ask the question, well, who's going to score? Again, we got to listen. At some point, we got to let Jalen, and especially if we're about to pay him, we have to let Jalen Johnson have a chance at that role. Because if you don't,
just saying,
then it's like, so are we saying we don't believe in him? You can't make him a third option and then say, okay, prove this you could be the best player in this team. He's the third option.
Right.
So if there's truly a belief in him.
Let me ask you this. And I hate to cut you off, but I guess we're looking at Dyson. Will we ever have started Chris Dunn? Will we ever have started a Holiday? Will we have ever started, like if you think about it, he's that player for us. Don't get me wrong, he's valuable. But are we going to start him? Like, I'm just trying to think, what's the worst player Trae Young's played with next to? And offensively, he may be the worst one. Can y'all think of any offensive player of Dyson's caliber that Trae Young started next to?
No, but and you know what? This was one of my questions. I think, and again, guys, I'm the least qualified to talk basketball on this panel, so take this for what it's worth. But I think Quinn is a defensive first minded coach. And I think the philosophy of this team is shifting. I think the
Mhm.
paradigm, or as a friend of mine would say, the paradigm of the prototypical player that we draft is shifting. If you look at Ricochet and you look at Dyson, body stuff, even if you look at JJ, they're very similar. They're quick, they're fast, they're agile, they're big, they can defend multiple positions. So
Mhm.
maybe, and Mark, this is to your question, maybe the paradigm is shifted, and maybe Quinn is saying, look, Trey can drive in and kick it out to anybody. We're gonna develop shooters and develop guys that can pop from three, and we're gonna defend, and that's how we're gonna do it. Do you think this is possible, Mark and Bryce?
Well, I mean, our
I
most
definitely.
productive time in the Trey Young era was when Bogey was a starting two guard. Like
Okay.
in the 2021 run, we were going between Kevin Herter and Bogey. So I just think, although I do agree adding, especially Dyson, I mean, him as an on-ball defender is definitely an upgrade. But I just don't think that I don't think that was the vision when they traded for him. I think
Okay.
they traded for him and they're excited that, like people are saying in the chat, I think we all agree, get in the lab with Kyle Korver, Bogey, all these guys that have improved their shot since they've been with Atlanta. I can see him being a better offensive player, but I just don't see him. I don't think that was the vision when you trade DeJounte Murray, was to make Dyson Daniels a starter. To me, this is my opinion. If that's the case, I am very worried with Quinn Snyder's coaching philosophy. Again, that's just my opinion. But we've seen Trey Young have the most success when Bogey was a starting two guard. So I think you have to really consider that, we have proof that can be successful.
And
Bryce?
that's a great point. Let me make this point right quick, and that's a great point, Mark. Uh, and this is what I was getting at earlier. The coach and the GM, as I told y'all, got to be on the same page. If y'all remember when Coach Bud was here, when he had that 60-win team with a bunch of misfits, is what I call them.
Oh,
It
Lord.
was.
Him and the front office had chemistry, and I don't see that with Quinn Snyder and Landry Jones, Landry Field. I'm sorry. I don't see
Give
that
the
with
man a
them.
name. Just give the man a
And
name.
hey, until you see that cohesiveness between those two,
Yeah.
um, it's gonna be hell and high water. And that's why I said, Mark, you made a great point, man. You just got to be on the same page. You got to.
True. That's true.
Okay. Let's see here. Now,
I,
now
I
that 2021 season, we lost in the Eastern Conference Finals. And to Mark's point, I ain't gonna lie, it was a nice backcourt, with Bogey and Trey. We averaged about 113 a game, gave up 112, 21st in the league that year. I'm just saying, I mean, we was the sixth best offense in the league that year, but we
They
also
just
was
playing horse.
21st. We was also 21st, in defense. At the end of the day, man, do you think that Bogey can Bogey's 30, 31, 32? Do you think Bogey can get back to 21 Bogey? You know what I'm saying? I know he was definitely more healthy this year. I know he got his knee back, so he was definitely more healthy this year. Do you feel like he can improve and be better than what he was this year, being in that starting lineup?
Not necessarily, but I think just the one thing I'll say, and I'll pass it to Bryce, is we saw this team was better when either Trey was on the court or DJ was on the court, but not them together. So I truly believe that I don't really want to say DeJounte was the reason why the defense wasn't as good as it could have been, but I just don't think that it's going to be that dramatic for it to be Trey and Bogey like we're thinking. Like, Bogey's active. Bogey tries to play defense. A lot of what defense is effort.
Yeah.
And Bogey, Bogey's not, he's solid. He's a European player. those guys, man, when it's time, they're gonna lock in and try to play defense. So, do I think he's gonna be a good defender all of a sudden? Absolutely not. Do I think that backcourt could be fried? I mean, possibly, but there's teams like Chicago, they got, there's a lot of teams running similar lineups. And, again, like I'm not too worried, man. Because again, we saw last season when Trae Young and Bogey were on the court, the offensive net rating, the defensive rating, it was somewhat right there, damn near at zero. So again,
yeah, as a team, we had the offensive rating that year. Because what I first gave you was points, it was points per game. But now the offensive rating that year, we were second, out of 30 teams. And defensive rating, we were 26th out of 30 teams.
Mhm.
So it's just my whole thing is like I get it. I really do. I really do get it. But I would prefer to have Bogey coming off the bench, some offensive firepower off the bench, And also we also do have to see what Kobe Buffkin has. We did draft him in the first round too. We got players we got to start using and start seeing what mixes and matches we can do. And I get it with the Dyson Daniels thing, but he is going to have to get in the lab. He is going to have to get with Kyle Korver and get some of that shooting better. I just prefer to have, like Rice was saying, you got Trae, you got Dyson. Off the bench, you can have Kobe, you can have Buffkin eventually. Ricochet probably is going to be in the starting lineup, but I don't mind if you have DeAndre Hunter, who is a veteran already on the team. You can put him right there at the 3 and bring Ricochet along. There's nothing wrong with that. I understand he's the number 1 pick. I understand traditionally with the politics and everything, but forget all the politics, man. Let's just go lay the foundations, get possible players experience, start using it and see what we have. Because if this is all we have, and let's say there are only like 1 or 2 more moves that are being made that are not big splashes, and we do have to roll with something like this, we have to have some kind of plan and structure. And Quinn does like to play defense, and he also likes to move the ball, something that Trae can do. Everybody can pass the ball. We have to see what JJ has, because again, we speak his praises all the time. And how, oh, yes, Jalen is this and he can do all that. Well, it's time to freaking see. Yep. That's all I'm saying, y'all.
You make the point. Bryce, your thought?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the one thing you gave yourself with everything now is, like you said, you gave yourself options with multiple players. I've been saying leading up to this offseason, during the season, I was like, there's a strong chance this team is going to rely on the young players next year to take steps in development. That was one reason, if you remember, when they were looking for a coach after they fired Nate, one of the big things they wanted was development, because they knew this was the direction they probably were going to take. So you need to have someone in here who can develop players so then they can, improve, reach their potential, and do what they need to do. And I think that's one of the big things here that I think they're trying to look at and trying to keep doing. Especially, like I said, you're bringing Dyson to help in that equation. You got Buffkin, who can be a combo. You have Ricochet, you have Bogey. Like I said, the fact that you have options, it's actually kind of a good problem to know. We got multiple guys who could play this spot if we needed to, instead of, well, we pretty much know last year is going to be Bogey, pretty much is the only real 2 we had. And then at times for defense, he'll play like 5 minutes of Trent Forrest. It's a much healthier situation than last year's team, because you have guys that you're expecting to step up into that role. Right. So, and then like I said, you still have, if you needed to, Garrison Matthews, even though he's not the best defender, he tries, he draws charges, and he's a 40% 3-point shooter. So, you like I said, you have options at that spot. So, I think really for them, it's just, I think Quinn's going to go through and try to figure out, okay, what lineups work best, who is going to fit what we're trying to do. Can they execute what we want to do and be able to move forward? Trae mentioned it last year. He said we got to get guys in here who are going to buy in. Obviously we have our questions with DJ and his buy-in and everything like that, but and also you can make an argument, okay, they traded him before free agency started. Clearly that must have been a priority for them to get rid of DJ. So, now they have it. Now, okay, you have a much more healthier roster construction. Now, what does the team look like? now. You know, you have these young players like Vic Krejci who people really like because he can guard 1 through 4. You know, he can pass the ball, he can shoot. You know, Richeche, guy who can play multiple positions. Buffkin, Combo, Dyson can play multiple positions. You know, so you clearly see that they're adding. They want versatility, and they want the ability to be like, okay, if we need to play this way, or if we need to have this particular lineup on the floor, we can do that. Because, like I said, last year they didn't have that ability. They pretty much were like, this is our lineup, and this is what we got to stick with. So if you play a team that has a better lineup against that, it's not really much they can do. Now they can. So I think this is going to be very interesting to kind of see how it all kind of works out. I still think there is potentially another move to be made. I just think, obviously, they're not like, I knew coming into this because people got hyped when I was talking about they're going to be like making moves. I did not mean free agency. I just meant there's some other trades to be made because they can't do anything else because they still have to sign back their own free agents. And they, like I said, they're talking to Jalen. So trades will be where they make moves, whether that's Hunter, whether that's Capella, whatever, right? And going to one point Smitty made about Okongwu, and this is just me. I think the one thing about that is that at the end of the day, if you look at the statistics with Jalen and both Okongwu on the floor, that was a good front court for the team last year. They did play well. They had a good defensive rating last year together. And offensively, obviously, they're more versatile guys. So, and obviously it helps that they have very good chemistry between each other. You know, we know they're pretty much best friends on the team. So I think that's something that I could see them saying, listen, like we are willing to, you know, help let them play together. I mean, Jalen, just because of how athletic he is, can get 10 rebounds, even with his size. He's just, you know, so I think that helps. And I think they think that can work well in terms of just a chemistry on the floor together. And then, like I said, biggest thing you want to do is, if anything, you want to try to maybe get a backup big with some size. So then it's like, all right, if we need to play some guy with some size more, we have the ability. It just depends on match. Because like when they play Boston, Okongwu's probably going to play more. They'll take their chances with Chris, because Kristaps not posting anybody up. He's shooting for the most part, realistically. Al Horford, he'll be in the 3-point corner. Okay, Okongwu can play. But against 76ers, yeah, we may need to have another guy who can bang with Embiid, or I guess have guys who can help with good help defense against them, because that's something they're going to probably do. Obviously, try to go for steals, things of that nature. So it just depends on what the matchup is, what they're trying to do, and what they want to be able to do.
I agree with that 100%.
Smitty, I got a question for you and Chris. We're here now. Sounds like a part of our plan is development, which, you know what, I embrace. The one thing that I see in the NBA, and again, guys, keep me honest, I see a lot of draft picks that are drafted every year and they really never get a chance to start.
Right.
And that's kind of different than in the NFL. Now, baseball, you could get drafted and never see the light of day. So I think basketball and baseball are similar in that way. But it feels like, and Bryce, thank you for alluding to the fact that a part of this focus is development, because if you're in cap hell, what else can you do? So with that being said, guys, specifically Chris and Smitty, how long do you think it will take for us to realistically get to the point to where we can contend? Is that 3 years? Is that 4 years? Is that more? Smitty, we'll start with you. Go ahead.
Realistically, as I alluded to earlier, getting that big man, and I agree with Bryce and everything he said about, you know, matchups, and y'all saw the matchup that we had against Boston, beating them back-to-back times last year. So matchups are key. But realistically, if you got that big man that can control the middle and can protect the rim, I think that speeds up the process just a little bit. And when you speed up this process by putting the right pieces in place, that also starts with Trae Young. As I told y'all, he's one of the best facilitators in the league. So you give him the right pieces around him that he can facilitate and, you know, help this team grow in the right direction. I can see 2 years. And it's just that simple, because if you think about what they had in 2021, and I know we keep going back to that, it's really no different than what they have right now. Just
Okay.
need, more defense in the front court. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Chris?
I like that. I like that. Well, another thing we have to think about too is, and I know this as hypotheticals and possibilities, nothing guaranteed, but the Hawks could be in a nice predicament going forward. Let's say if that Kings pick falls through for us, then you have 2 first rounders in next year's draft, which is supposed to be loaded, right? So that can also be used later on if let's say they keep it. And let's say this time next year or a little bit before the draft, the Hawks mess around with and have 2 first round picks. You can use that as leverage to go do other things. So again, you laying down the groundwork, you're not skipping steps, you're taking this one step at a time now because you did make some mistakes. You did have to go get outside help with the salary cap, bring them in. So you are making moves, you are laying down foundations and everything. I do want to still go get another big man if we can, like Walker Kessler. That would be great. To go along with Double O, I believe, so then you're getting younger as well in the front court as well. Capella has been serviceable, but this team is starting to head into a younger direction too when you just look at it in certain positions. So those are hypotheticals that are out there, but you have to take into account it's a possibility we could get that Kings pick, and if we don't get it next year, then it still roll over until the next year, I believe, which will be 2026. It'll be considered like a top 10 if we can get it, and then if it doesn't, by the time 2027 rolls around, it'll be 2 second round. It'll turn into 2 second round picks. So there's still opportunity for the Hawks long term. I know we don't necessarily control everything, but the front office is at least attempting to try to rectify with the mistakes they've made in the past with the DJ and the Trey thing. We just have to kind of like weather the storm. We make the right moves. It could be 2 years, just like Smitty was just saying. Maybe even sooner. It just all depends on what falls for the Hawks. All depends on how the season goes. Laying a foundation, though. I do believe we're laying a foundation for people to eventually want to come down here.
Okay. Mark and Bryce, what do you realistically think Quinn's window is to win? Right? Each coach, whether it be baseball, football, basketball, when they accept a position, there's an expectation we should start seeing progress in X amount of years. This will be his 3rd year, or, well, I guess really 2.5, right? He took over with 10, 20 games left. So basically the 2nd year. Bryce, and we'll start with you, and then Mark. Give me the time frame that you think Quinn has to turn this around, and Mark, then we'll go to you.
I mean, obviously, if the team had a absolutely god awful season, then that would be the end of this year. But I mean, for a team that didn't make the postseason, you would assume, all right, they make the postseason this year. I mean, they're competitive. Even make the 2nd round, you're probably thinking another year. So I'll probably be like at least 2. I mean, usually most coaches get 3 years fully to be able to change it around. And I sometimes still wonder if the Hawks view last year as the first year in terms of getting his staff in, getting his system in, and things of that.
Possibly.
So,
point.
I mean, that's what I would say about 2 years. I mean, I like I said, we've heard it. Quinn came here to coach Trey to win. They feel like they both need each other to win in Atlanta. Yeah. So I would think if they were going to move on from Trey Young, then I would think that would probably also mean Quinn Snyder would also leave, just because Quinn did not come to rebuild a team. I think that's one underlying thing that people did not realize through this entire equation is that Quinn did not come here to, hey, we're going to win 18 games next year intentionally. So, or else he would have stayed on that beach he was on before he signed that contract to become the head coach. So, I think I think they're kind of both tied together a little bit. So, but I would say 2 years overall would be when Quinn would have to tie it together, because I think they're viewing it as like, okay, now we have a more as of right now, obviously we'll see whatever moves they make, a better roster construction right now. Let's see what we look like this year. Let's see if what we're trying to implement works. And if players develop and things work out, then we're feeling like we're going in a good direction, and so on and so forth. And if not, then, you know, we'll have to make those tough decisions when those times come, because obviously the optics is like, you don't want to fire coaches too quickly in this league, because then even though we've seen it, but that's only with teams like the Suns, who are like impatient to win. They're like, oh yeah, you came in the year, oh, you couldn't make it work with our big three. Well, you suck. Let's bring in someone else. So I mean, but we're not in that situation. So you know, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm about to say like two more years.
Okay, Mark, how you feeling about it?
Well, we got to think February 2023, he got signed to a 5-year deal. Even looking back, Nate McMillan, when he got his extension, he got signed to a 4-year deal. He was 99 and 80. He got fired after 2 seasons. We all know Quinn Snyder is below 500 currently.
Yeah.
So when I do all that math in my head, you know, creating this equation, I feel like he has to the end of this season. I mean, he really has to the end of this season.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I'm not saying he has to win the championship. I'm not saying he has to do anything dramatic, but if we are not we're not better. Matter of fact, I'm trying to pull up his record right now. He has to have a better winning percentage this season than he's had so far in Atlanta. He has to prove that he can win with the pieces that's given to him, because so far, I mean, okay, you give him that half a season, you know, that's a throwaway. He's going to have his own coaching staff. But last season, I feel like even with the injuries, we were still 22 and 29 when we still had most of our team. We were still under 500. It still looked like the Trae Young show, and you know, now it's your turn, DJ, and now it's your turn, Dre. You know, we haven't really seen anything that signals that he's a better head coach than Nate McMillan. So again, I'm giving him to the end of this season, and a lot of that is tied with, if we don't have a successful season, I think it's safe to say Trae Young won't be here next season. And if Trae Young's gone, I don't think it makes sense to keep a veteran type coach. At that point, you're probably better off rebuilding and going to go get like a young, fresh, basically bridge coach, kind of like we did with Lloyd Pierce, and move forward. But like I said that he'll probably have one more season, but I think we'll be able to put something together, man. He's a good enough coach, and I think we make the playoffs and we show improvement, you know, he should be safe for at least another. I mean, again, he has a 5-year deal, so he should be able to, as long as we make the playoffs this season, he should be able to, you know, get to the end of his contract.
Okay. Smitty, Chris, what say you? Smitty, we'll start with you.
Honestly, I don't even know which way to go after hearing what Mark had to say. He's right on point. I can't add to that. But yeah, I agree.
Do you think that he's better than Nate McMillan so far? Like, have you seen something that makes you confident that, you know, he's the right guy to figure this out?
Absolutely not. And I alluded to it earlier. I just don't feel like the front office is doing everything to put their resources behind him. And this is why I agree with what happened with Coach Bud by them making him GM and head coach. Because if you're the GM and the coach, you get to choose the roster that best fits your philosophy, like I said earlier. And he could bring in guys that fits his philosophy, but seeing him have Rudy Gobert in Utah and saw what he meant to that team, this is why I say a 7-footer is a must. And Lauri Markkanen, I keep seeing people saying that name. He's a 3 or a 4. He's not a 5. So that wouldn't do the Hawks no good. But Nate McMillan, to me, I think he got fired a year too early. And what I mean by that, I've seen the team grow up under him. I've seen them starting to respond to him. And even though they went through a bad stretch towards the end, they were still playing hard. And if we don't see that this year, I agree. At the end of the season, if they're not improved past a play-in team, yeah, he's gone. And it wouldn't be a reason to really keep him. So even though he signed a long-term deal, hey, it happens. So until they give him more control over, because I guarantee you, he would have took a center had he had input in the draft. I guarantee you that. So yeah, one end of the season, I agree, Mark. End of the season, he might be gone.
Chris?
I don't think he's gone at the end of the season. I ain't gonna lie to you, but I can see if things are not going right, you know, so in the following season, I can see a mid-season firing again. I can definitely see that.
Well, guys,
but I think he's going to get like a longer leash. I really do think he's going to get a longer leash than just this season right here coming into it. I really think he's going to get at least until 20. What I ain't going to say the full contract, but I think he gets for at least 4 years into it.
I mean, but we got to remember what happened with Milwaukee last season.
Adrian Griffin. Yeah.
I mean, hopefully we're not a front office like that, because why did he even get fired? They didn't even have a losing record, and they were like
he
the
pissed
number
off
one
somebody in the front office. That's all.
Well, a lot of people say he pissed off Giannis. A lot of people say he pissed off Giannis, and that could also go back to maybe Nate McMillan. Trey and Nate wasn't on the same page.
Yeah.
So
that's
you know.
And Chris, thank you for saying that. That's where I was going next.
What I did there, right?
What perfect segue. Perfect segue. One thing I will say, Trey, more so with any other coach, seems to have embraced Quinn's philosophy on defense. I will say that. And again, from the outside looking in, so you guys keep me honest. I don't have an issue with correction. Not that he didn't necessarily bond with Nate. Not that who was his coach before Nate? Was it
Lloyd Pierce?
Lloyd.
To me, there was always a bit of resistance. And again, if I'm wrong,
that's true.
You can, but
that's true.
You could see it sometimes in the off-camera back and forth between the two. I really haven't seen that with Quinn, and I think it's because Quinn experienced success in Utah. And I know Spider Mitchell had a conversation with Trey to say, hey, you're going to have to defend more, but you're ultimately going to be better. And I think from player to player, there's more trust, right? So I think what helps Quinn, in my humble opinion, is that, and this goes back to Bryce's point when Trey was talking about buy-in, right? Because for Trey to say, well, if we can get players in here to buy in, what does that tell you? That tells you that the current roster has not bought in completely. Or at least that's what it says to me. I don't know about y'all. Right. So, you know, Chris, I really think you're onto something. But I think what helps us is that Trey is bought in. And if your star is bought in, then it's a lot easier for some of your other players to buy in.
Has he really bought in with his comments? I mean, he's made it very clear that he is open to the idea of going to where he has to go to win. And if you had a relationship with your head coach and you really respected this head coach, you would never say anything like that. You would say, bruh, I got Quinn Snyder. We're going to figure it out. But, you know, he's made it very fluid. Hey, I just want to win. Well, you don't think you can do that with Quinn Snyder? You know, you don't think you can do that
and that honestly, that honestly is not the mindset of a leader. That is a mindset of a role player. When you have a mindset of a leader, you want to be the reason for the change. You want to be the guy that turn this team around. You want to be the guy that gets everybody involved, get everybody on the same page. Guess what? Down the road, if he's still feeling that way, he's going to become a counselor in the locker room. So guess what?
Yeah,
he could be traded in the next year or two.
That's interesting, y'all, because I'm gonna tell you what I got from that. I didn't get that was a message toward the players that he played with, or the fans or anything. I think that was a direct message to the front office. Hey, look, I'm ready to win. I'm ready to win. I'm ready. I would like to win in Atlanta, but if it doesn't happen, at the same time, he's not going to come out and say, if we don't win, it's because the front office didn't do their job. That's not
Correct.
going. That's not. We know that's not coming out. But
Correct.
my from what I filtered from that was front office, do something. I want to win here, but if it doesn't happen, pretty much, it's because y'all didn't make the right moves around me.
So Chris, do you think that Trae Young was a big reason why we re-signed John Collins and Kevin Huerter?
No,
I'm not saying he went to the front office, but I'm just saying, do you think that
I believe that playoff run Trae helped everybody contribute in some type of way to get paid. You know, again, that's why I go back to that game 7 against Philly. That's the Kevin Huerter game. That game got him paid to me. You know, and then, you know, with John Collins just running with Trae with the pick and roll, John doing his thing. He got the shirts, he got the highlights, he dunking on Embiid. You know, it's marketable at the same time too. That got him paid. It's other things outside of just basketball on why reasons why guys can get paid too. That was marketable as hell. Him sitting in that press conference with the shirt on and people making shirts off it, man. He had it on his website and everything. That's marketable. So, you know, you want to try to replay that. They never could with John Collins, and especially for 5/125. You know, it's different aspects, man. I just think that.
What about the DJ trade?
The DJ trade, see, man, I wish I really was a fly on the wall so I can know who really asked for that trade. I really do.
I don't think Trae wanted that. But go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
But I guess what I'm trying to make is I feel like the front office has made attempts to build around Trae Young and what he likes and what works around him. So to have a comment like that and to be directed to the front office, it kind of doesn't make sense. Like, this front office went and got that coach for you. They went and did this for you. They went and did that. Like, so to have comments like that, it spot on goes to Smitty's point, you know, as far as him not being the leader. But again, like, that's kind of where I'm at with his relationship with Quinn Snyder. I'm not saying they have a bad relationship at all, but I'm just curious if he's really bought in to be the leader, to be the franchise. It felt like DJ did. Now, Bryce, I know you covered the team. Who do you think felt more like the face of the franchise, pound for pound? We're talking about speaking to the media, how he leads his guys on the floor. Who felt more like the franchise guy, Trae Young or DeJounte Murray, in your opinion?
Ooh, that's a great question.
I think I remember when DJ got here. I remember he was obviously the more outspoken guy because, like, Trae's a more quiet guy. And I think sometimes we gravitate to the guy who's outspoken as the leader guy, right? Even though he may not be the best player. And then people were having whispers, oh, it's going to become DJ's team, whatever. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff that happened over these last 2 years that we don't know.
Right.
That we maybe think happened.
Right.
But I definitely think DJ was more communicative with teammates for sure, just because that's his personality. And then obviously when he would be in the press conferences, he would just be like, you know, my teammates first, you know. But I mean, at the same time, I mean, Trae's never really bashed his guys. He's always been like, oh, I believe in my teammates. I believe we can turn it around. He's always said that to the media. He's never said, no, I don't think we have the people. I think one thing about it is that, you know, and going to that point with Trae and the Quinn thing is, I think when Trae was making those comments, he was just basically just being like, if the goal is not to be a winner and to be a slow building team and not try to, you know, move forward. I mean, he's just being honest. Like, well, you know, I'm a little bit older. I'm getting up there. I'm getting close to that third contract eventually at some point. You know, I would like to be in a position to be competing. Like, it's the same thing what Giannis did. Third contract. We got to start doing something. Every player gets to that third contract. We got to start doing something.
Right.
So it's just that natural progression, I think, in the game. I don't think that's a indictment on Quinn because he's like he can say I believe in Quinn, but if they say we're going to go young and rebuild, I mean, you know, I get from his perspective, like, oh, I mean, if that's the case, then I mean, I guess go ahead and try to send me somewhere where I could be competitive, you know. But I think at the same time,
all over again.
he's been honest. He wants to play with JJ. He's very happy about what potentially what him and JJ can be. I think he's but obviously we know his relationship was great with Bogey and things of that nature. So I think Trey knows what they have. He just wants to make sure. The biggest thing he wants is just to make sure, are we still trying to be competitive? If we are still trying to be competitive, I'm good. I just need to know, is that the mindset, or y'all really trying to like reset this thing? And I think that's the difference. I think with DJ, for him, I think he was kind of cool, whatever. But I think also if he was a locker room issue at all, obviously we heard him and Quinn both being West Coast guys were had a good relationship, but we've also seen him go out to the media and say, I didn't really like that game plan that we went. That's what he wanted to do. Trey never technically has done that with Quinn. DJ did. So, I mean, it just kind of depends in that situation, but it just all depends on how you view what he says and what it means to you. Because I think for him, he thinks, especially, I really always say that 4-game stretch against Boston is really when I think Trae Young bought into Quinn. Because remember, he came off the Heat series the previous year before. People were like, oh, Trae, he ain't it. First 2 games of that series, Trae wasn't great. But Quinn kept working with him. Quinn kept coaching. And then he destroyed Boston for 4 straight games. It's just the team wasn't better than Boston.
Right. Team wasn't better.
And I think that is where it was like, oh, he coached me, helped me be able to figure out how I can still be effective. And that's something I think that he was like, if he can do this with me, imagine what he can do with the whole team if he gets his guys, gets his staff, and see what this team then looks like in the future.
Yes. Let's stay right there, guys.
Right.
So
hey, can I say something right quick? Go down. It alludes to what we're talking about now. Go down to the super chat that just dropped.
Super
it's
chat
highlighted in yellow from Boss Trucker.
Right here. Okay.
He said he don't know basketball. Quinn is a decent coach, and he asking for basketball dummies. And it's actually a great question for people who don't follow basketball, because coaching in the NBA can be tricky. Can he be a good coach? Yes, he can. All he has to do is get the players to buy into what he's doing, and buy into his philosophy. Has he done that in his first year? I think he's getting there. But again, you have to surround him with the type of talent that he needs for his philosophy to work. So, yeah, he's a decent coach, but it's up to the front office to get him to that next level, as along with Trey too. But thank you for that super chat. Truly appreciate it. And but I got to bounce, man. I got a important appointment I got to keep. And if y'all on my channel right now, please stay tuned into Terry, into A1 Forever, Mark, Bryce. They're gonna keep giving you great Hawks talk. And shout out to We Hawks TV in the chat, man. Y'all please go check him out. We Talk Hawks TV, man. Atlanta Hawks all the time, 24/7, and he do this thing, man. But Terry, man, I appreciate you for letting me join the panel, man. Always love with you, man. So again, man, y'all, I'm gonna roll, but y'all please stay on and keep listening to this Hawks talk, because they're making great points. If y'all want to know what's going on with the Hawks this offseason, they're gonna tell y'all. And again, catch us on the Sports Machine, man. I'm doing sports 24/7, so please stay tuned, because we're in for an exciting offseason with the Hawks, and we're in for an exciting season with the Falcons. And on that note, man, thank y'all for letting me come on. I will holler at y'all later, man.
Thank you, Smitty.
Peace. No doubt.
Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Indeed.
Guys, what I was gonna say, and I think you're all right in some capacity. I do. I think that was I agree with Chris. I think that was I got a deal coming up in a couple of years. Where we going? You know, where we going?
Man, that's where I feel like.
I also think that Trey has bought in. I really do. And I want to kind of address something, and that is, guys, and we've all, if we've played any sports, we've all played with this guy. There's, Trey was probably good from birth. And players that are that good, that are that talented early, are usually coddled, right? They're usually, oh, well, these are the rules over here for you, but not for you, Trey, because you score 50 points a game, right? And it's that way in middle school, elementary, high school, college. And then you get to the pros, and they're not going to coddle you. Maybe management does. But if you're being coached, they're not going to coddle you. And I bring it up because with Nate and with who was before him again? I'm sorry, guys. My memory's terrible.
Lloyd Pierce.
There
I
seemed to be.
I know he's forgettable. Don't. I know he is forgettable.
I'm not. No,
I know.
my memory's terrible. So, for those of you who don't know, I had a stroke about 10 years ago, and my memory when it comes to names is just terrible. So it's nothing against him. I just suck at memory, right? I'm Donkey Hooters at memory. Okay, those of you who watch One Time for the Fan, you know what I'm talking about. But there seems to be resistance with Trey up to the point where Bryce said that Boston series, and I think Trey has bought in. I think Trey is 100% behind Quinn, but we don't live in a vacuum. We could still suck and Quinn be there if the front office doesn't do what they need to do. So I kind of agree with everybody on that, Mark. I agree with you to a certain extent. I do that from a leadership perspective, Trey could be better. Now, has he grown? I think Trey has grown by leaps and bounds. Trey has definitely rubbed some folks the wrong way, but 2024 Trey is totally different than the guy we drafted. I think he's matured and as my wife often says, you have to give people room to grow. So I think Trey is coming. I think he still has a way to go for leadership because maybe he could have phrased that differently. But I think Trey is going. My question to the panel is and guys, I just got to be honest. I'm going to throw it out there. I love Trey Young. He's an Atlanta Hawk. I'm going to love him for life. He's not necessarily thought that way around the league from what I'm hearing. Do you think future Trey is going to be able to attract free agents coming here in Atlanta? Or do you think he's going to be a deterrent? And Chris, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts?
To be honest with you, I think that, future Trey, the Trey Young today, like you said, is definitely not the same guy. He's got married, had a couple kids. He has learned from experiences. One in particular, I think that one where he turned down the chance to play in Atlanta in the All-Star game. I think that's one thing he probably would like to have back, as he probably sit back at it now and think about it. But of course, you got to mature. You got to give people room to grow, like you just alluded to. So it's just, I think in the future, as long as he does it on the court, off the court, continue to still be the same guy that he is off the court, continuing his play, uplifting the player, uplifting the team. We already know when Trey's on the bench, he's one of the biggest cheerleaders as well for the team. You see it all the time, so he is a team guy. He just needs to uplift, his play just a little bit more, his leadership just a little bit more in other aspects. He doesn't have to be the rah-rah guy for me. Yeah, I don't necessarily need that. I just need production. And if you can give me the production and continue to facilitate, continue to let guys like JJ grow, continue to see guys like Dyson and Ricochet and all those guys, grow around him, because one of the best things he does is facilitate and get those guys into the game. I believe it is, again, setting a foundation, a winning foundation moving forward, and that we're trying to go into the right direction. Seriously, I really do think that we can do that. I really think Atlanta can be a destination that players want to come and win, as long as we have things in place to where that's attractive for other people to come down here too. I can see it.
Okay. Mark, what say you?
Yeah, I just don't think Trey Young's that guy, man. You can just look around the league. No, don't be wrong. He's extremely talented. He's a superstar point guard, but I don't think he's attracting anyone to come play here in Atlanta. Again, I just don't think he's that guy. You got to think, like, how does he really impact winning? Like, if I'm a player, like, how do I benefit by playing with Trey Young? Well, he's not like so good that teams don't know how to guard him. He's not impacting wins currently. And then when I look at it as a player, it's just like, well, if I'm a wing, how does that really benefit me? If I'm a big, okay, maybe if I'm a pick and roll guy, if I'm a John Collins, type, but how many superstars are that type of player? No, like all these guys have egos, and that's how they got to a position they're at. Like, it's because they think they're that guy. And I think Trae Young thinks he's that guy. Other players that play against him or play with him, they understand that. And sometimes, I think we all got to go through it. You got to go through that ego death until you can truly grow. And I just don't think I think Trae Young is like going through it. Like everyone keeps saying, oh, he's cheering his guys on. He's looking around the league like, oh my God, I do need to change because, no one in the league respects me outside of my teammates. And do they even respect me? Again, John Collins traded, Kevin Huerter traded, Cam Reddish traded, now DeJounte Murray traded, Nate McMillan fired, Lloyd Pierce fired, Travis Slank quit. Luka Doncic was a player that was attached to me for the rest of my career. So again, I love Trae. I think he's a great player, but I don't think that he is attracting anyone to Atlanta. And we could just look at the proof. Like
so wait a minute, Mark. Am I hearing this correct? Are you blaming all this pretty much on Trae though?
I'm blaming
I'm just listening to those names you just reeled off, and I'm just like, okay. Well, because for one thing, we know why Travis left. He was never trying to get DeJounte. He was never trying to trade them picks. That was a Nick Breslin thing.
It all revolves around Trae. I don't think it's necessarily his fault. It's just that's the position he's in. Like, this is the life he chose. Like, you want to be the guy, then you got to take like the good and you got to take the bad. Like, we all know it's not all his fault. It's like football. If teams start losing, they're going to blame the head coach and they're going to blame the quarterback. Like, that's just the reality. And Trae Young is our quarterback. He's the guy that touches the ball the most. Mm-hmm. He's supposedly supposed to make the guys better around him. So when we're not winning, you got to blame somebody, Chris. And I'm not big on blaming. As a leader, I'm going to take accountability. So that's why when I look at Trae, obviously Trae's at a whole different, stratosphere. Like, his talent is allowing him to, do so many different things for his family. So like I said, I salute the guy. I salute anybody in that position to change their family's life. But again, as a leader, when I look at him, I just think like you're better off just being accountable, just saying nothing. Like, everything's my fault. Everything's my fault. Y'all gonna blame me anyway. So going to get 2 sets ahead, say it's my fault, and just keep trying to get better. Like, that's the life you chose. Right. That's the position you play. So again, man, y'all know me. I'm gonna keep it real. I know one time for the fan, they keep it positive and they be in La La Land. But
oh wow!
Oh, they be a La La Land. The thing about it is, too, guys. I think
and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just saying, y'all know I'm gonna keep it real. But at the same time,
absolutely.
The truth is, it's not Trae Young. It's not all on Trae Young. Right. That's also two things can be true.
Yes, they can. They are not mutually exclusive. I agree.
We all know it's not Trae Young's. It's not all his fault, but come on now, he's a big reason why our roster is the way it is currently. I think that much is true.
That's
and
true.
Then also too, it's a perception out there that we have that guys have to be a certain way. To be a leadership. I understand. Like, we see the movies, we see what the leader, like the whole aura of what a leader is. He's big, he's strong, he's vocal, he's this, he's that, and everything. But everybody can't be that. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't make them a leader though. Everybody can't be the rah guy. Some people have to lead in different ways. You can find definitely different ways to lead.
But see, and that's where we disagree. It's his shot selection at time. It's his attitude on defense. I'm not asking you to be some guy that comes out and says all the right things. I'm not saying for you to be a robot, but how you carry yourself, your attitude as a franchise player. That's why I asked about DJ. DJ wasn't perfect, but he understood, okay, all eyes are on me. So there's certain ways I got to carry myself. And I think Trae Young's growing into that. I think that was why you bring in DJ. That's why you bring in Rondo. That's why you bring in Quinn Snyder. All these things are to help Trae Young, and I think we are going in a good direction. I think he is growing, but then we're still seeing all these cryptic tweets. We see him tweeting now, and it's just like,
but that's what I'm saying. How's the tweets irrelevant though? So what about the tweets? I want to see what the action is behind it. Is he trading? Is he not traded? I can care less about what he does personally. Like I said,
that's you, Chris. We know majority of the people do care. That's the reality. We don't care, but his teammates are probably looking. The coaches are looking, and that's what I'm saying. You're in a different position, bro, and it's almost like he just likes being the villain. That's what it seems like. He wants to be the villain. He wants to be this mysterious guy. Okay, you can, bro. When I mentor high schoolers, I used to tell them, you could do whatever you want, bro. You could do whatever you want in this life, but you can't pick your consequences. And I think that's what we're seeing out of Trae Young. He does whatever he wants, and then he's looking like, oh well, we're not going to win. I want to go win, bro. Are you doing the things that can help your team win? Not you and your brand. And your statistics and your all-star appearances, are you doing what it takes for us to win? And I feel like the best thing that happened to him is when he got snubbed for the all-star game in Atlanta. Then it was him against the world, and then we had our best success. And then not only that, we go against the Knicks, and Knicks fans are throwing water at him, cussing him out, F you, Trae Young. Mm-hmm. And we got a more locked in player, a guy that was determined to win versus determining to get his statistics. So, like I said, that's just my opinion. Like I don't think
it's not wrong. It's just we're just having a conversation. Even about the tweets, like in the tweet stuff, from what I see the man working out, spending time with family. I see great things that I'm seeing. I see a family man, and I also see a guy who most of those tweets, he's in the gym. He's working out. He's working on something. And honestly, isn't that what we want to see? Isn't that a form of leadership, to see that your star player is working out, is doing things that you need him to do on and off the court? I'm just asking a question now myself, because those are things that you see from leaders, right?
Yeah, I think
to a degree, if you saw his teammates in the video, to me it just screams I. It's been I for Trae Young, man, his whole career. Let's not forget that. It's been I. I don't think we're seeing anything differently. We don't see we don't see him and no other player. We don't see him with Steph Curry. So it's like, yeah, okay, it looked good on Twitter and social media.
But we have though, right?
But it's like, it don't really matter. We don't care if you're working out or not. So again, it goes back to the point of, it don't really matter. We just wanted you to win.
Yeah, I think you're both right. I do. And Bryce, I'm gonna get to you in a second. Stand by. I think you're both right. But here's the thing, and I want to touch on 2 points that you guys both made. Chris, you said something. Everybody doesn't have to lead the same way. Right? Because there's some guys that are vocal. But the thing about you, when you're around a bunch of guys, you have to be authentic. You have to be yourself, right? You guys are all young, vibrant, bright, energetic guys. I'm the old fart on this podcast. And I gotta be that. I gotta own that. It is what it is, right? I can't come out here being Bryce and being Mark and being Chris. I gotta be me. Same thing with Trae Young. If you're not vocal, you can't fake that. Now, what I will say, to Mark's point, Trae doesn't help himself with some of those tweets. Now, the other thing about that, Mark, and again, I am old, I just think that's a part of you guys' generation.
It is.
Could Trae stand to kind of sometimes back off of the tweet a little bit? Yes, he could. But I think Trae is growing. Does he have things to work on? Yes, certainly does. Could he be a better leader? Yes. But I think in this instance, he's trying. And not that I'm trying to be the old dude on the podcast, but I'm going to put my old dude on the podcast hat on and say 30 years ago, I'm a totally different person than what I am today. Okay. The 23-year-old Terry was a jerk. Okay. If I could go back in time, I'd probably punch him. Okay. Made a lot of mistakes. So I'm saying, I see where there's some issues that need development, but I also see the potential in that Trey could be great. Now, will he be here? I don't know, because I honestly think that if we don't have a plan, when's Trey a free agent? 26, 27? I think 26, one of them. If we don't have a plan in place by the time he gets there, Trey's gone anyway. But there's something else that you said, Mark, that I really like, and it was ego death.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is because we all have to go through that, right? If we're going to be great, if we're going to be anything, it's got to be the we above the me. And you said some crucial things. Hey, man, this is the life you chose. I think you're both right. That's the thing about the truth. There are components to all of it. I'm going to shut up now. Bryce, you've been listening.
But T-Will, I just want to mention the reason why I said that was just, can he attract other stars? That
was the original.
That was the main premise. I think other stars are looking at those things I mentioned.
Yeah. And you're right. You're right. But America loves a comeback story, right? I think some things have to happen, right? Maybe, you know what? The thing I notice about Trae Young, he needs a certain amount of opposition. Like, he needs a certain amount of F you, Trae, where other guys might, he loves that. Let me tell you something. You want a 50-point performance out of Trae? Tell him F you for 15 minutes at the beginning of the game, and he's going to keep your lights out.
No, seriously though.
And what
Trae
he
will start cooking.
And I'm gonna tell you what that's from. That's from being the smallest guy on every team, being told
he's our Napoleon,
and adopting that concept. And it's kind of hard to be that guy, because can we agree, if you're that guy, are you not to a certain extent a bit of a loner? Like, it's just me out here. I got to prove. These other guys don't have to prove what I have to prove. And I think a part of his growth is going to be, even though that's me, we're still a team. And that's my humble opinion. But I think that's
my thing is, and going to that point real quick. I know I just want to get that out real quick. I mean, not comparing him, because I know what people are going to say after this comment. You comparing such and such to Trae Young? No, I'm just saying, as far as going to the loner part, look at Kobe, man. Kobe was in the gym.
Yep.
Look at Jordan, man. Jordan was in the gym.
Yep.
LeBron, you know what I'm saying? Everybody has a point to where they got to isolate themselves and probably get themselves better in order for me to become the player that I need to be, the killer on the court that I need to be, the teammate, the man, whatever. I need to isolate myself. And some of the hardest battles in life you will ever have is the battle within, the battle with oneself.
Yes.
So when you have to deal with yourself, there is no tougher battle.
Yes. Agreed.
Bryce, what you got?
Bryce, go ahead. You guys are dropping stuff. Bryce, go ahead. What you got?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've been, like I said, good conversation going on right now. Listen to all you guys about what's going on and stuff. So going to the original question, I mean, I think really the main thing is just if the Hawks are able to start winning, I think that will improve things. I think that's just the easiest thing to say for everything. So they win, they'll get free agents. I think a lot of the time Atlanta has never been in that kind of position. And in the NBA, they're considered a small market team. Even though Atlanta is a big city, in the NBA, they are considered a small market team.
Yeah.
And so obviously when you're a small market team, your mindset is different. I've seen it from other small market teams. They're like, we kind of have to go the route of development, what they're doing right now. They can't just rely on just big swings and things of that nature.
Yeah.
I mean, does Trae play a part in that? Yeah, for sure. I think that, there are definitely benefits. If you're a shooter, you probably want to play with Trae. He'll get you the ball. I mean, literally, Bogey's a prime example of that. I mean, you've seen great stuff. Like, I mean, we say Capella's a good roller to the rim. There's a reason for that. I mean, because he wasn't really putting that action a lot in Houston. He was more of just a rebound and get putbacks and get it back out to Harden. in this offense with Trey, he's been put more in like, all right, we need you to run pick and roll. We need you to drive, screen, things of that nature more. And I think that's been successful for him. And so I think overall with Trey, I think, like you said, does he have to go through some ups and downs? Yeah, every player does. I mean, listen, we just saw Luka get just torched on social. I mean, and people made it seem like he's like a god in this league. And he got destroyed because of how he played against Boston in the NBA Finals, because of the fact that he was just getting blown by every possession, and that affected the team and everything. I mean, there have been questions for years about Luka. Is he a good teammate? Because he'll chew out teammates. I mean, I see Mavericks people on my thing. They definitely are very critical of how he is, because Luka will crap on his teammates. With Trey, it's like he really won't crap on him, but sometimes you may feel like he won't do as much to uplift him either. So it's just kind of like he's just in this middle ground of like, okay, he's not doing either one. I would like to see him at least do like maybe the positive side of it, not the negative side, right? Just because I think Trey likes attention, but I don't think he wants that type of attention, if that makes sense. And so I think for him, like I said, he's more of a guy where if you motivate him, then he'll, go out of his way. Like, I mean, think about the matchup earlier this year against Houston, Dillon Brooks. Dillon Brooks was barking at Trey. Trey was like, okay. Trey had a pretty good game that game, I believe. I mean, because he was just like, like Dillon coming at me. So that's kind of how he's always been. But I think, especially this is the first, because Trey hasn't been. The Hawks have been in the postseason every year since 2021, correct? Except before this past year. So, this is the first time he hasn't even made the playoffs in a second. So, that could also be something that could be like, all right, so we didn't make postseason this year. All right, what needs to happen so we can get back? So I think one thing about Trey is he's committed to the grind. He always wants to improve his game. He always wants to try to get better. So at least from his perspective, he can be a better player. I think, I think that's why you have heard some people say like, hey, this might have been, as much as everything that happened this year, this might have been Trey's best year, just because of just some of the things that he was able to do. I know he started off slow, but he picked it up. And so for him, I think he's just continuing to go through that process of just trying to be like, all right, how can I be the best player I can be? And I think too, with him and Quinn communicating with the roster they have, especially if he is the main guy, I mean, he's like, listen, you've been in this position before. You were that guy. You were the guy in the 2021 run. You were able to gravitate a team. Because I always say one thing about that team that I always say was great is everybody had a very, very defined role. And that was also because of injuries. So like it was one of those things where it was like, with all the injuries we have, Trey, you have to get 30 and 10. There is no, well, maybe I'll let DJ take it. Well, maybe no, like you have to give us 30. We don't have anybody else. We're down multiple players. Like there is no, and I think that made it clear for him. It made it clear for Bogey. It made it clear for Kevin and Clint. Like Clint, you got to get 10 boards. You got to be impactful defensively, because everybody had to if they were going to find that success. I always said under Nate, my biggest issue was, especially that last year, was I felt like everybody didn't have a defined role. I just felt like they were just kind of playing basketball. Like, I don't know if y'all remember that time. Everybody's like, I feel like they're just playing basketball, but I don't feel like there's a goal, there's a mission here. Mm-hmm. No one has defined anything. You know what I'm saying? That's why it's just, you'll see them play really, really well and then play really, really bad. And you'll hear what Nate used to say, random play. Remember that? He said, yeah, we'll just do some random play. What does that mean in an NBA game? We're playing random? Like, you know what I'm saying? So I think with Quinn, he's came in and obviously he's gave some better structure, because I don't think he's just doing random play. But I think now for Trey, it's like, you're coming to a season. You've been in the league, this is the 6th year now? 6th, 7th year now? Your team is younger. I mean, he's mentioned that a couple of times past year. We have a young team. This year, they definitely have a young team. I mean, Bogey's the only guy, and Clint now, if he stays on the team, that are 30 plus. And so he's going to have to take more of that guiding role. I think, like I said, it's important that you have a good relationship with JJ, because that looks like he's going to be your second best player. Mm-hmm. So it's important that you and him have good chemistry. And people have said that it may be better for him to have a wing as his second best player more than a guard, just because that may be more beneficial for both players. Obviously, it's a strong relationship with Bogey. I think, he has a good relationship with Clint. I think that he roots for the success of the other guys as well. And so I think it's just more of when Quinn gets them all back in there, Trey has to take on that role and say, all right, so I'm kind of one of the veterans, top 3 veterans on this team. So I got to, help you guys come along because a lot of you guys have talent. And I think a lot of you all have things that can help this win games this year. And so I think it's just that natural progression that a young player has to go through in this league. Some guys learn it quicker than others. Some guys, it takes a little bit longer. Everybody has their own journey. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I mean, because realistically, I could ask this question: who's the better leader right now, Luka or Trey? Mm-hmm. And be realistic, because we have much negative stuff that we can say about Luka. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of I wish Trey would do this, but not he did this and this was really bad. Yeah. If you want to talk about the quick tweet, well, everybody does that because everybody wants to be a troll. Embiid's a troll, biggest troll in the league. It's like I just think, and sometimes I always say they just do it because it's like, because anything they tweet, they're gonna be like, oh, if he's like, man, sometimes I wish. What does he mean by that? What does he mean? He could randomly just be talking about him wanting for something for dinner. It's like sometimes I wish if I didn't live out here, I could have had this. We don't know. Like it's just we're having to like guess and look into everything a player does because that's what we do. So I think overall, I just think I think he has a guy that in Quinn that he really feels like he connects to him basketball wise, and that he's like, all right, I understand what you're saying. I can see what you're saying. We can execute it. This works. I feel like he didn't really have that with Nate and Lloyd because Nate didn't want to coach nobody, and Lloyd they just did not. I mean, apparently he was good X's and O's. He just wasn't a great person in terms of personality mixing with everybody. This is the first guy I think Trey feels like I can get the X's and O's, and I actually like him too. And I think that helps out in the grand scheme of things.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. We could get into team chemistry, but guys, I think we're up against it. So I'm going to say first and foremost, thank you to everyone on the panel. Thank you to Smitty. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. Mark, thank you. Bryce, really enjoyed this, man. Looking forward to tonight's interview. And guys, I'm going to take a moment to talk about team chemistry, and I'm going to close with this. I can't tell you how many times I bugged the hell out of Chris. I bugged the hell out of Mark. I bugged the hell out of Smitty. You're not going to grow if you don't have somebody that you can go to and say, hey, what about this? And what about that? And what about, I go to Chris all the time with, hey man, what if we trade half the team and whatever? And Chris, to his credit, is like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Because most people would be like, smoking crack, Terry. What the hell is wrong with you? But Chris, being kind of the philosopher, and Chris has a gentle delivery, is like, I don't know that I'd do that, right? But he's laughing because he knows I'm right. The point is, and even Mark too. Like, so I'll talk with Mark, and Mark will just take everything I say, and God bless him, because I'll be rambling like I'm doing now, and Mark will be like, I might try this. And right. Mark is a whole lot more laid back, but it's basically the same. I don't know that I'd do that, Terry. But my point is, who's that guy for Trey? Right? Who's that guy for Trey? So when you talk about team chemistry, you guys alluded to this. That's a big part of it. Because we got to be somebody got to speak the truth to me. Somebody got to be like, bro, I don't know that you need to be wilding like that. I don't know that you need to put that out there. You know what I mean? And I think somebody is doing it because he's getting better. But in your championship teams, you gotta have somebody in that locker room that is a vocal leader. Doesn't have to be the best player, but you got to have somebody in there. And then whatever the best player is doing, he's got to lead by example. And those are just my thoughts, guys. Guys, tell everybody who you are and where they can find you. Bryce, we're going to start with you. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys. Let me come on a little bit late. Y'all can follow me on Twitter, Bryce_2K. You can also follow my YouTube as that. I do the Believe in Hawks podcast, available on all podcast platforms. If you want to catch up on my Hawks content, had Mark on this last week for the draft. Great conversation. Obviously, love talking about that. Obviously do Falcons content as well. That'll start picking up as we get closer to training camp. Definitely going to be live tonight, one time for the fans. So appreciate you for letting me come on later today to talk about that with you guys. And yeah.
Mark?
Yeah, well, my name is Marquise Chaney. Y'all can find me at Mark Chaney on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, wherever y'all want to follow me at. Yeah, hey, like Bryce said, man, definitely had a super dope conversation with him on the draft. So it's funny how it ended up playing out, man. It's so dope. But yeah, man, like I said, you can find me at Mark Chaney. I think I might try to go live probably about 1:30 to keep this trade conversation going and talk about this all season. So if y'all want to tap in, I'll be going live, like I said, Mark Chaney on YouTube.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, A1 Forever Sports, man. Please come by on YouTube, man. I think we've just crossed I think we're like at 855, 858, something like that. So we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers and beyond, of course. So, come on by, have a conversation, check out the content that is on the page because there's plenty of it, trust me. And man, I appreciate Terry, saying it's never a bother. So don't say that you bother me. It's never a bother and everything. Yeah. But appreciate, having the conversation with Terry, with Bryce, with Mark, man. This is of course, always salute to my brother Smitty, my brother Berto, RJ, who the plug walk, he been walking through the hills all the time. So I appreciate, working with you guys, period, man. And I really just appreciate, the having the space, the Atlanta Hawks space, this whole community that has, built. And this is a great thing. And honestly, like I know that Atlanta Hawks have been, on the magnifying glass. And it's a good thing because it brings guys like us together, to be able to talk about it. We find out that, hey, man, you doing Atlanta Hawks content too? Yeah. Let's link together and let's, build this community. So it's always a beautiful thing. Again, shout out to everyone on Twitter, YouTube, A1 Forever Sports on YouTube, A1 Forever on Instagram, on Twitter or X, and the real A1 Forever on TikTok, man. Come on by. Just trying to grow these platforms, continue with this content coming out. I'm ready for Falcons training camp. So I'm really happy that the Atlanta Hawks is a big topic of discussion right now because I remember this time last year, but we ain't had too much to talk about. So this is also a beautiful thing, man. This is a beautiful thing, man. And July is about to be on fire just with sports, period. And we're coming up on training camp, y'all. It's on the way. And we still got to see what other moves the Hawks make. And, then, for the Braves fans out there, we still, getting closer to All-Star break for that and the second half of the season for the Atlanta Braves. So stay tuned, man. Atlanta, we making moves. We on the move, man. We on the move.
Let's do it. First off, I want to all the fans in this chat, thank you guys. Appreciate you guys participating. Hey, if you could go by For My ATL Sports 1 on YouTube, like and subscribe. But I appreciate you. I want to thank God for this opportunity because without him, wouldn't be here. And I also want to really highlight Smitty because Smitty is the most humble guy with 10K subscribers I've ever met in my life. The most down to earth, always giving somebody an opportunity. I bugged the hell out of Smitty. I'm just gonna keep it real. Yes, I bug Chris. Yes, I bug Mark. I bug the hell out of Smitty. And also Jack Spade, who is my mentor friend. Really want to big up him for One Time the Fan. Really goes out of his way to help and support. Got to do that. Guys, with that being said, thank you to everyone. Really enjoyed this podcast. Hey man, let's do it again.
I'm sorry, Terry. I know we about to get up out of here, but I almost forgot. Just want to leave something with something like a little something for everybody to do.
Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So I know with the whole free agency thing, I know we don't have a lot of moves that we could possibly make. We'll see what happens after July 6th. But if DeMar DeRozan is out there, I say you still, give it a call and just at least see what you possibly could do. Mm-hmm. And one reason why I say that is the things that he can do in that mid-range department. Go look at what Danilo Gallinari did in 2021.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. And you know what? Hey, Chris.
And just switch out Gallinari. I know you're gonna be watching Gallinari highlights, but just imagine if that's DeRozan.
Yeah, that's a good point. But again, I don't know if that's what. Look, That's like me growing hair. I'd
There's
love
something
to
to watch. There's something to think about. Hey, it may not even it
I don't-
may not even be in the stratosphere of happening.
Do we
but
have the
it's
money?
just for the sake of conversation.
Do we have the money to do it? Where
I don't think. Again, it all depends on what apron you're trying to stay under. It all depends. That's again. I think that's what it goes back to. It that first apron. If they're trying to stay under it, that definitely would be a problem trying to sign DeRozan.
Yeah. Well, Mark, hey, maybe you can talk about that further on your channel. Mark's about to go live at 1:30. So if you guys want to hop over there, feel free to. Guys, really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Everybody have an amazing day.
Do the same.
Well, I see that thing's still ticking.
I'm about to say, did he leave us in here? So all right, so Terry doesn't want to continue the show, but we're here still going live at 1:05. So saying it's your boy A1 Forever Sports, Chris Tipmore. We got Mark Chaney, from actually Bleacher Report, because we can't forget about that. He does that as well, but he also independent doing his thing all the time. The boy Mark Chaney, you know what I'm saying, and also Bryce 2K Believe in Hawks. He should have been on Believe in Falcons, but that's just my personal opinion. Don't shoot the man. That's what I said. Me. But it is what it is, man. Again, shout out to everybody for being on here. We don't know how to end this thing. So that's why we still talking.
Wait, so you can't control anything on your end?
Brother, I cannot.
Everybody. Hey, he back.
Hey, what's good, brother? You just left us in here, huh? Man, Terry said, I thought I ended it.
I thought I did, but hey, you guys want to keep going, you're welcome to do it, man.
Hey, man, I'm about to go get something to eat, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. I got to get out of here.
I heard that, man.
Hey, 1:30 though. I'm gonna continue it at Mark Chaney. If y'all want to hop in, everyone's more than welcome. Just gonna keep it going, man. Cause I know people in the chat were enjoying the combo.
All right, cool, man. Well, hey, I got to get to work to make the world safe for cable customers everywhere. You guys have a great day, and keep it set up for as long as you like.
Hey, man, I'm getting off of here, man. So I think we all about to leave.
Yeah. Hey, well,
right,
appreciate y'all, man.
Yes, sir.